Chào buổi sáng, con trai. Ơi ơi, lại chơi nào. Nào Miu, lại đây với ba.
Today we're going to discover how a tiny puppy named Miu completely changed the quiet mornings around Trieu Duong's house, bringing endless laughter to little Truc Lam and turning the peaceful countryside yard into the happiest place in their home. But what happened when Miu tried chasing the chicken for the first time? If you enjoy heartwarming family stories like this, don't forget to subscribe to the channel so you won't miss the next videos. Ever since the little puppy named Miu became part of the family, the mornings around Trieu Duong's house no longer felt quiet like before. As soon as the first sunlight touched the yard, small sounds of laughter and tiny running footsteps already filled the peaceful countryside space. That morning, the air still carried the cool freshness of early sunrise. Thin rays of sunlight slowly stretched across the front yard, while soft mist remained near the rows of trees behind the house. Chickens wandered around searching for food near the fence, and the goats inside the shed occasionally made low sounds as they waited to be fed. Trieu Duong stepped outside carrying a metal bucket filled with feed, while adjusting the towel hanging around his neck. Before he could even reach the goat shed, he already heard familiar clattering sounds behind him. Truc Lam was following him again. The baby sat proudly inside her small walker, pushing herself forward across the uneven ground with determined little movements. The wheels bumped softly over stones and dirt while she chased after Trieu Duong through the yard. And right beside her, Miu ran excitedly in circles without stopping for even a second. The tiny puppy had become completely attached to Truc Lam after only a short time together. Every morning seemed to begin exactly the same way now. As soon as Truc Lam appeared outside, Miu immediately rushed toward her walker with excitement, wagging his tail wildly as if he had been waiting for her all night long. Truc Lam laughed happily the moment she saw him. The cheerful sound echoed across the quiet morning yard, while Miu jumped around her tiny feet like a playful little guardian. Trieu Duong looked back and shook his head with a helpless smile. "You really can't stay apart anymore, can you?" he murmured softly. The puppy barked once as though answering him directly. The peaceful morning slowly continued around them. Near the goat shed, sunlight passed through the wooden fence and created long golden shadows across the ground. A gentle breeze moved through the banana trees beside the house, while distant voices from neighboring homes occasionally drifted through the air. Trieu Duong poured feed into the goat trough while quietly watching Truc Lam and Miu nearby. At first, the puppy chased small insects moving through the grass, but only moments later, he suddenly ran back toward Truc Lam again after finding a dry leaf blowing across the yard. Miu pounced toward the leaf dramatically but missed completely, tumbling sideways across the dirt instead. Truc Lam burst into laughter immediately. Excited by her reaction, Miu quickly stood back up and rolled onto his back directly in front of the walker, waving all four paws in the air while staring up at her. The walker stopped instantly. Truc Lam leaned forward happily and reached both hands toward the puppy while laughing nonstop. Not far away, Trieu Duong quietly leaned against the fence after finishing his work. For several moments, he simply stood there watching them together in silence. The morning sunlight reflected softly across Truc Lam's face, while Miu continued acting silly, only to hear her laugh again. Sometimes the puppy rolled across the ground. Other times he chased his own tail in clumsy little circles before collapsing beside the walker dramatically. And every single movement made Truc Lam laugh harder. The small countryside yard suddenly felt much warmer because of those simple sounds. Before Miu arrived, the mornings around the house often felt too still. Even while feeding the animals, Trieu Duong could still feel the heaviness of quietness surrounding everything. But now the atmosphere had slowly changed. There was life in the yard again. Suddenly, Miu spotted several chickens pecking near the fence and immediately sprinted toward them with excitement. The peaceful morning exploded into chaos at once. The chickens flapped their wings loudly and scattered in every direction, while Miu froze, halfway in confusion. After barking nervously once, the tiny puppy quickly turned around and ran straight back toward Truc Lam's walker for safety. The frightened expression on Miu's face made Truc Lam laugh uncontrollably. She slapped her tiny hands excitedly against the walker tray while watching the puppy hide near her wheel. Even Trieu Duong could not stop laughing anymore. "So now you're scared?" he teased while walking closer. Miu looked up innocently with dusty paws and tilted his head slightly, pretending he had done nothing wrong at all. The peaceful countryside morning slowly continued after that. And while watching Truc Lam laughing beside the tiny puppy under the warm sunlight, Trieu Duong quietly realized something inside his heart. Ever since Miu arrived, the house no longer felt lonely anymore. As the morning slowly became brighter, the peaceful countryside yard grew more lively with every passing minute. The sunlight now stretched across almost the entire front yard, warming the ground where Truc Lam and Miu continued playing together without getting tired. Near the goat shed, Trieu Duong finished stacking several empty feed buckets beside the fence before wiping the sweat from his forehead. Even while working, his attention constantly drifted back toward the middle of the yard, where Truc Lam's laughter echoed again and again. Miu had somehow discovered a new game. The tiny puppy kept grabbing small dry leaves in his mouth before proudly dropping them in front of Truc Lam's walker, as if presenting her with treasures. Every time he succeeded, he wagged his tail wildly and stared at her, waiting for a reaction. And every single time, Truc Lam laughed happily. At one point, Miu became so excited that he accidentally crashed into one of the walker wheels and rolled sideways onto the dirt. The puppy immediately stood back up, pretending nothing had happened. Truc Lam, however, burst into even louder laughter. Her tiny shoulders shook with excitement while she pointed directly at Miu with both hands. The cheerful sound filled the yard so naturally that even nearby birds suddenly flew from the trees above. Trieu Duong quietly smiled while watching them. Sometimes he still found it surprising how quickly Miu had become part of their daily life. Only a short time ago, the puppy had been sitting alone inside a small cardboard box at the market. Now he followed Truc Lam everywhere like a loyal little companion. The morning breeze moved softly through the yard, while the smell of fresh grass and animal feed mixed together in the countryside air. Nearby, several chickens wandered lazily between patches of sunlight, completely unaware that Miu was already watching them again. The puppy crouched low to the ground. His tiny tail moved back and forth excitedly while he slowly crept toward the chickens like a hunter preparing for an important mission. Truc Lam noticed immediately. She leaned forward inside the walker and stared at Miu curiously, almost as though she already knew something funny was about to happen. Not far away, Trieu Duong crossed his arms and shook his head. "You never learn, do you?" he muttered. A second later, Miu suddenly charged forward. The peaceful yard instantly exploded into noise again. Several chickens flapped wildly and scattered in every direction, while Miu barked excitedly and chased after them for only a few seconds, before immediately regretting the decision. One large hen suddenly turned around aggressively and flapped both wings directly toward him. Miu froze in panic. Then the tiny puppy ran as fast as possible straight back toward Truc Lam's walker for protection. The entire scene happened so quickly that Truc Lam burst into uncontrollable laughter again. She slapped both hands against the tray while Miu hid underneath the walker beside her tiny feet, peeking nervously toward the angry chickens from a safe distance. Even Trieu Duong started laughing loudly this time. "You act brave for 3 seconds and then run away," he teased while walking closer. Miu looked up innocently with dust covering his nose and paws, looking completely embarrassed after his failed adventure. The warm morning atmosphere slowly settled down again after the chickens wandered away. Truc Lam continued watching Miu with endless fascination, while the puppy stayed much closer to her walker now, clearly deciding that chasing chickens was no longer a good idea. For several quiet moments, only the sounds of wind and distant birds filled the yard. Then suddenly, Truc Lam's walker became stuck near a small, uneven patch of ground, close to the garden fence. She pushed forward several times but could not move. Immediately, Miu stepped closer and began pawing clumsily at the wheel, as though trying to help her escape. The tiny puppy looked completely serious while scratching at the dirt beside the walker. Truc Lam laughed so hard that tears almost formed in her eyes. Trieu Duong stopped walking after seeing the scene. For a long moment, he simply stood there quietly under the sunlight, watching the baby and the tiny puppy together. The yard still looked exactly the same as before. The goats remained near the shed. The chickens wandered around the fence. The morning wind still carried the familiar smell of grass through the countryside air. But somehow everything felt different now. Warmer, more alive. And while listening to Truc Lam laughing beside Miu again, Trieu Duong suddenly realized the small puppy had brought something into their home that they had been missing for a very long time: joy. Ever since the tiny puppy Miu became part of the family, the quiet mornings around Trieu Duong's countryside home have completely changed. Every day, little Truc Lam follows Trieu Duong around the yard in her baby walker, while Miu runs excitedly beside her like a loyal little friend. The playful puppy constantly does funny things to make Truc Lam laugh, from rolling onto the ground in front of her walker to clumsily chasing dry leaves across the yard. One morning, Miu bravely tries chasing the chickens near the fence, only to run away in fear when one angry hen fights back. The hilarious moment leaves Truc Lam laughing nonstop while Trieu Duong quietly watches them with a smile. As the peaceful countryside morning continues, Trieu Duong slowly realizes that ever since Miu arrived, the once lonely house has become filled with warmth, happiness, and joyful laughter again.